This is the sixth session of AWS DevOps, and today we have to understand a very important Amazon service, that is S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. This is a highly flexible storage service provided by AWS. It's a file system based storage service. The AWS create the servers and backend storage, redundancy, everything for you, even the file system, and they are just giving you some web API and the web interface to upload your data. So, and you can connect this S3 storage with any of your service for backing up your data to or deploy your application, and you can connect your S3 storage with your EC2 instance. A lot of usage are there. So just understand this is just a file system based uh, pre-provisioned file system storage. So here I am going to select S3. So the concept of S3 is a type of buckets. So buckets contains your data. So you can create your multiple buckets and then you can dump your data in the buckets. Dumping can be by any ways, either by your application or by yourself, whatever you want to store in your bucket. It is highly flexible, it is highly available, and it's a type of global service. Like you can see, I already have this bucket I created just for the sake of some backup, and also I have some data inside this bucket, and it's in this region, AP South 1. But right now I am US West 1, but still I can see this bucket. So the beauty of this S3 storage is it is actually residing in the region where it is created. Physically, the data will be present in the region where you created, but it is accessible from anywhere, from any resource of AWS. Obviously, when you will access the storage from one region and your bucket is in another region, it will increase the latency, but it is reachable. So let me just create a bucket. I'm clicking on create bucket. So name of the bucket should be unique across all the buckets so far created by all the users of AWS. So you cannot put a normal name here. So to make the name unique, you can say something, the name of the project, like project one, and then your domain name, like I have itpspro.com, and any other uniqueness you can add, like data dot project one itpspro.com, or you can add some unique number to make it entirely unique across the AWS. Okay, go down, you can see there are ACLs. I am using this option. We can enable the ACL, we will understand the ACL, but right now we just want to understand the concept of bucket. So here it's I am blocking all the publicly reachability of this bucket. If I want to publish something to public, I can simply uncheck this box, and whatever you will upload in this bucket will be reachable by a URL to everyone. So if you want to create this bucket for some private project, then it should be no, it should not be reachable to public access. It can support the version control, just like it whatever files you will upload, it will preserve the older version of the file. So this is a good option to maintain the backup and to retrieve the older version, but it depends on your requirement. You can enable this, and the encryption on your content, whatever is stored in the hard drive of AWS storage, so it is encrypted. It is even not readable by AWS, so it is encrypted by some keys. So I'm just going to click on the create bucket. So it will create the bucket, and now you can see there are two buckets. One is in US East West one, and in one is AP South one. So this bucket, if I click here, so here you can see there is no data so far uploaded. I can simply click on upload and I can add folder, add files, and can upload the any data from my desktop. For example, this index.html I have, it is uploaded. Just click on save. These are some permissions. We will see this in detail, but right now I just want to give you the access of the concept how to upload. Uh, this is the storage class. These are all the storage classes provided by AWS S3, and the default the each storage class has its own price tag. I mean, how frequent you will access your data. It depends. So standard is a normal if you want to access your uh, frequently you want to access your data uploaded. If you select the intelligent tier, it will automatically move your data into any of these available storage classes according to the trend you are using your data. So here you can see whenever you are going to create a bucket, the default behavior, it will replicate the data among all the availability zone in the region. Okay, so if you look in the standard, intelligent tier, and standard infrequent access, so you can see the definition once in a month with millisecond access. So your availability zone, three or more, will replicate. If you select only one availability zone, it will not replicate to other availability zone, and its price is less, but its high availability is compromised. And similarly, there is a glacier instant retrieval. This is also replicated uh, among the different availability zones, and if you and it is just for the dumping data if you want to dump some data for a long time, but its price is less. Similarly, glacier flexible, uh, it it will take more time to retrieve the data, like glacier and glacier deep archive, and so these three glacier related options are just for dumping the data for backup purpose only, where you don't need to retrieve your data quickly. So it can take some time to retrieve the data. So these are the different storages. So it is recommended to use the intelligent tier to upload your data. It will automatically select the relevant storage class. So it will automatically adjust the price of your uploaded data. So here I am just going to upload. So your file is uploaded. Okay. So now if I go back, you can see this file is uploaded. I am in this bucket. So now if I want to access this bucket, if I go back to this bucket, right now I am logged in with my root user. So root user have the have the full access, and root user can access all the buckets. Let me show you the users so far we created. So we create this DevOps user, and I use this DevOps user to connect with my AWS CLI, and I use the Terraform to deploy the different AWS resources by using this DevOps user. And I gave only these two policies, permission policies, to of EC2 and VPC related full access I gave to this user. That's why we were able to deploy these two resources by using the Terraform. Uh, if I go to my CMD, and in previous sessions we configured the AWS CLI, and if I run AWS S3 ls, this is the command that I can use to list down all the uh, buckets available. So you can see the user that is associated with AWS CLI is not able to read the bucket related information. And which user? This is the user, DevOps. So I need to allow this user some more permission to reach S3. So here I will just search for S3 and Amazon S3 full access. Next, add permission. And this permission is added. Now if I list down AWS S3 ls, it should show us the two buckets. So you can see these buckets are readable by this user now. Okay, now let me create one more user here. I can say DevOps 2 and provide user access to web console. Okay, I will log in with this web console to show you some interface where it will be able to access the bucket. And password, I don't want to change very first login. And permission, I don't want to give any permission. So create user. Now I can log into this user. I will jump into another browser to make a new session with the AWS console. And here I want to use the DevOps 2 user. I believe I used the wrong authentication failure. I need to check this 0989. This is the user and this is the password. I'm copying this ID. I don't know why it's not login. Let me just try to sign in again. And here the ID, here the DevOps 2 user. It's not granting me to log in. Yeah, the password I am typing wrong. So here I just need to I can log in now. So now you can see this user logged in, and if I try to access the S3 service, and if this user want to create this any bucket, this user cannot create any bucket. For example, I'm just creating a random bucket. So by default, this user don't have any permission to create the bucket. Now, if I give permission to this user, here you can see when I click on the buckets, you do not have permission to list the bucket. So now I will go to my root account, and here in users, to this user, in add permission, attach policies directly. For example, I want to give S3 any access of the S3. For example, read-only access or any specific. So any access whenever you are going to allow to any user to relevant bucket. For example, I'm giving full access. So then you can see the user will be able to see the buckets. Okay, now these two buckets are reachable to this DevOps2 user because I gave the permission. Now if I click here, it can see the data. If I click here, it can see the data in the both buckets. Now there is a situation if you want to allow only this bucket access to only this bucket access to this user, not this one. So, but when I click on this bucket, you see it gave me error that this bucket is not reachable. How I did this? By default, all the buckets are readable by the user. Let me just create one more bucket just to clear this concept. Here in the S3, let me just quickly create one more bucket. Data.project2, and create bucket. Okay, this bucket is created. And now if I just go to the another user, and here I need to do a refresh. So this second bucket is also reachable. If I click on this project one, this user can see this bucket data. If I click on the second bucket, the user can upload or see the data. So far, there is no data. But if I click on this third bucket, this is not reachable to this user. How I did this? Basically, when I create this bucket, I apply a policy to make this bucket only readable by a root user. So by default, when we are making the policy for any user to list or to view or to have the full access to buckets, so all the buckets are readable by all the user, that specific user. But there can be a situation where you want to allow a specific user to a specific bucket only. Rest of all users should not be able to access the bucket. So how we can do this? So for example, just think here. I don't want to allow this project 2 bucket access to this DevOps 2 user. I just want to allow this project 1 bucket access to this DevOps 2 user. How can I do this? So right now when I click this, it is working for this user. So I need to go to this bucket that I don't want to allow for specific user, and then in the permissions, under the permissions, bucket policy. So here we can write our bucket policy. So just click on edit. Here we can write our policy, and it's a format of JSON we can use to create our policy. So it's not a difficult job to write our policy in JSON format because AWS gave us this interface to automatically write the JSON. We just have to give the information. Just like click add statement. So statement, what is statement? Exactly the statement what we want to do. For example, I want to deny for all. Nobody should be able to access. And principal, you can say which users. So I will write here star all the users, and effect I will say deny. So I don't want to read or access uh, any user, and then the action, what action I want to do. Here action is basically the resource. So action will be performed on the resource. So here we have to select S3 from the list of services, and I will select S3. Okay. And what action actually I don't want to allow by all the users on S3, I can select any selective list of options that I don't want to allow, or I can select all actions. So all actions mean star. So I don't need to add these options. Just S3 star mean all the actions on S3 are not allowed. And then resource, on what resource, because we have multiple buckets, on which bucket we want to do this activity. So if you go down, you can see add resource. Click on add resource. S3 already selected, and these are all the resources that can be associated with the bucket. So with S3, so right now we are working with bucket level of resource of S3. So bucket I selected, and here I have to give the ARN of the bucket. ARN is Amazon resource name. Whatever you are going to create Amazon resource, it will create an ARN. Just like, let me give you the example. Just like in the users, I have this DevOps user. If you click a DevOps user, you can see the ARN of this DevOps user. This is the complete ARN name. Similarly, if I create this bucket, let me go to bucket section. So it's 3. And here I can fetch the ARN of the bucket. So I am working on this bucket. I don't want to allow this data to bucket. Okay, let me just select this. And here in the properties, I can see this ARN of the bucket. I will copy this here from here and just put it here. Add the resource, and you can see under the resource section, this bucket will not be allowed for all the S3 options operations for all the users. Now if I just save this, it will deny for all the user, even for the root user. Let me just save it. And as I saved, you can see even that with the root user, I got the permission denied. If I go to bucket, I open this project to bucket, just to do a refresh. You see, the root user even cannot reach to this bucket. If I go to the another user, the DevOps 2, this user try to access, nobody can access this. But the root user, is a privileged user and it can still modify the permission. Root user don't have the access to read this bucket, but root user can go in the permission section and can edit this bucket policy. So what should we add here to allow to the root user? So if you scroll, if you just click on this section, it will list down all the options here. If you go down, you can see add a condition. So we can add a condition to bypass the rule we write. So here I can see a AWS ERN and qualify default operator. I can say string not like, yes, string not like, and I will select some user, for example, okay, DevOps user. I will select here just the ARN I want to fetch, and remember the ARN for the root user is root. You cannot see the ARN for the root user. Just copy the ARN of any user, just change the last, after last column, the root, add condition. Here you can see we add a condition. This policy will apply only, not for the string if the ARN is this. If the string is not like this, then this policy will apply. So we add a condition statement, just save it. And now you can see the root user, go to the bucket, open this bucket. Root user can see now, can upload the data. But if I go to DevOps 2 user, buckets, click on this project, still this user cannot access this. So now the condition is only applied to this specific user. So with this way, you can restrict different user to view the data of any specific bucket. So here in this section where we did the permission for this bucket, we can add it. We can define here multiple users. If we want to, for example, add one more user, you can simply copy this syntax and you can put the name of the another user. So another ARN, we just copy it. For example, this user, last, just we have to put this. Okay, and here you can see the syntax error. It is listing the syntax error. So it should be a comma while you are adding multi-resource. Yes, I did a mistake here. I wrote twice AWS ERN principal. It should be once. And these two both resources should come under principal ERN. And here, these two resources should be under the scare bracket. So here I just need to press enter. Yes, this was there. Now you can see the red mark is gone. So with this way, we can define multiple users that can add in the exception of reading this specific bucket resource. Similarly, you can add multiple buckets here in the same policy, and you can add multiple statements here. So if you want to learn this, just click these two useful links on the top right corner, policy example and policy generator. So you can take the leverage of this policy generator to write any policy and conditions, and then it will give you the complete JSON, whatever you want to use. And these are some example of the bucket policy you can use. Just read this article. It is very helpful for you to give you the idea what type of policies you can create and the syntax you can understand. So with this way, we can control the access of bucket and the resources. So now I just need to save this. Uh, yes, save changes. And here, this user cannot access this bucket. But let me just quickly sign out and sign in with now DevOps user. And I believe I gave the console access to DevOps user. Let me check. Yes, DevOps user can log in. It can see the console and go to S3. All the buckets are listed here. Click on project 2 and it's readable for DevOps user, but it was not readable for DevOps 2 because we add this user in the bucket policy. So with this way you can control the access, and there can be a lot of situations that you can use for this bucket policy. You can create any different type of policies. So now we are just done with the basic concept of S3 bucket policy. Now we also did AWS S3 LS. So by default, this policy is not denying to read the buckets. That's why, yeah, we gave the DevOps user to read to access to this bucket. That's why it's readable. But because the user we are using here, DevOps, and it was added in this policy. But when I will try to, if I switch my AWS CLI to DevOps 2 user, it will be able to list down the buckets, but this user will not be able to do any operation from AWS CLI to perform any data upload or read data from the bucket. So I hope you got the concept. So in the next session, we will understand the more concept of AWS buckets, and we will implement the same stuff we did by the web console by Terraform.